So it helps, yeah.
Yes, this is Alish.
Okay.
Starting from the greeting, I can say that it has helped me, you know, abundantly, extraordinarily, I can say. Because there were times that I entered the classroom with a serious face. And the students used to ask me why you are not smiling at all, because I wanted to just get a control over the higher grade students. But nowadays, as you always say, smile will never cost anything. So I just started entering the classroom, and from that moment onwards, there is a great change. And then small commerce. So you can say now it is like a teacher's kingdom, in fact, in the classroom, and there is no intruder. Like some problematic students, they just get everything into concern. They do it. Next, coming into the planned outcomes and evidences, I just started to go through this one technically after learning this reflective journal. For example, when Mr. Dave told me you have to concentrate on what students do in the classroom. So when I give a homework or when I give in fact, a classwork, I just go into the students and see what they do, rather than what I am lecturing and what I'm writing on the board and getting me satisfied. Just I'm observing them. And nowadays I stopped shouting at if they are making any mistakes, because we know that they go sometimes wrong. They go many days wrong, and it is the students' work, students-centered work is what is important for this reflective journal. At the end of the day, the success reflects on the students.
One more comment for me with the vocabulary expansion point. I used to introduce the vocabulary like by just saying the meanings, direct meanings, like this word means so and so, without putting that word in context, real world context related to the topic that I'm talking about. So when I followed that way in my tutoring, it helped me better to communicate with my students and give them my ideas, clear the ideas about the lesson. So it helps yet to put the vocabularies in the context, real world context for them.
I want to jump in real quick. I'm sorry. There's about 3 or 4 people who just joined the call. What we're doing is, this is called a fishbowl activity. I will ask the question. The question is based on the questionnaire that you guys received last week. And in order for this to work, everyone needs to participate. If you don't want to answer a particular question, that's fine, but we expect to hear a response from everyone at some point in this call. So that was just for the benefit of the people. Your responses are being recorded, and we will publish these findings. Okay. And again, remember what we talked about, teacher research. Teacher as a researcher.
Can I jump in for a minute, Ray?
Sure.
Let me just sum up and make it as simple as I can what we're doing here. Ray has described it well, but I'm just going to summarize it even tighter and just say what we're trying to do is see how you as teacher students feel about doing reflective journals. That's our goal here in this particular conversation, and in the questionnaire and the reflective reviews that I have, and in your little essays that you've done, is how do you feel about doing the reflective journals? So all of these questions are really aimed at that. There's 9 different questions, and I'm thrilled to hear you talking about it. Thank you so much. It's just wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sir, on that note,
I was panicked in the first one, especially the first one. I didn't know what to do. It was ambiguous to me. This is Lana, by the way. Sure. I didn't know what to do. The directions were not that clear enough to do. And maybe because I'm not that time I wasn't in the field, connected to the teaching field, like my colleagues there. But when I got a look over the samples Mr. Ray sent to us and my colleagues' samples, it became clear to me what I have to do. Okay, and on the second one, it becomes easier to me, referring back to your directions on what I have to focus on. For example, you directed me to focus on the learning evidence for the students, like I have to focus what they are learning. So I have to specify that in a student's way. And when I focus on that, the second one becomes easier.
Great. Does anyone else want to respond to questions?
Salish.
Okay.
About this reflective journal, okay, I found it compartmentalized. That is a word Mr. Ray used. We have been doing this for maybe 15 years. For the last 15 years, I've been doing like this evidences, but I never got this compartmentalized, like learning evidences, planned outcomes, okay, vocabulary expansion, communicative. This all I did not put into different compartments in a systematic way. So this one, after doing this, it helped me a lot to put into different, segments in such a way I can rectify, I can get help from Mr. Dave and Mr. Ray. And now I can just avoid what are the cons from my teaching and putting only the good things into those compartments.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in on question 1?
Yeah, Esther.
Okay.
Before, I used to start my lesson without warm-up, without any plan. And during and after the lesson, I will find it very difficult. Sometimes I used to ask myself, did this student understand me or was I rushing? Because I didn't have that plan, like the lesson plan we took before. So, and sometimes I used to, not sometimes, I was always serious. I had that mentality that I'm a teacher, I have to walk into the class, teach whatever is on the lesson plan. By the way, our school used to provide for us a lesson plan. So I had to follow up with the lesson plan. And I had this difficulty with my administration. If today's lesson wasn't completed, they don't care which obstacles you had on the way, you have to complete that lesson. So it was very difficult for me as a teacher, because then they wanted me to complete a certain topic at a certain time. Do you understand? But when I came to realize that when you plan your lesson, it will flow very smoothly, right? And this thing of warm-up, the class was so boring. The kids were not active. Some were sleeping. Some were rushing to the bathroom. I want to go to bathroom. I want to do this. I want to do that. So especially with boys, is very, very difficult. But when I applied this method of lesson plan, the flow of it, it was very, very easy for me to conduct my lesson without any difficulties as before.
Anyone else? Question 1?
Me, Mr. Ray.
Yes, sir.
Mohammed Bakour.
Yes, sir.
About question 1, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Concerning question 1, how do reflective journals reflect upon me as a teacher of 20 or 25 years experience? In fact, reflective journals, I reflect upon, okay, a lot. Why? Because there are many things that when you plan for a lesson or a lecture, this means you are ready and you have something in your mind to move to your student or to transfer to your student. This is very excellent that I can say at the end that planning for a lesson step by step, starting with formal, till communicative activity, this means that you and the students are interact with each other. Without planning, this means you maybe or may not be, you are going to achieve what you want. This is my opinion about question number 1, which I answered that a lot. Journals have helped me to reflect upon my teaching a lot. This is what is now in my head, in my mind about question 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Anyone else?
Mr. Ray.
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Musa here. Since I started writing reflective journals, I realized that I was so focused on before I started writing, I was so focused on what I was doing other than what the students were doing. The first time I wrote reflective journals, I realized that it is about the student. So I realized the mistake I was making, and this has really changed, and it has really improved my teaching and the learning process of the children, because now it's all about them. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia, you were going to say something, Cecilia?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Ray. Really learned a lot from you. Thank you, Mr. Dev, as well. Especially since I'm a Montessori teacher, Ray, most of the things that you used to teach, it used to be out of me, for real. But especially the micro teaching, I'm really like using it when it comes to tutorial, and basically it's really helping me. Like what you said last week, Montessori, the lesson plan, the teaching, almost all activity is basically very different. But I'm very grateful because now I have learned the other way that you really helped us, and the other way that I've always learned how to use. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Let's move on to another question. We talked about how we reflect upon how journals reflect upon your teaching. Let's look at question number 7. The journals have improved the learning of my students. Question number 7. The journals have improved the learning of my students. Does anyone want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I would like to say, Parveen here.
Yes.
The micro teaching, when before micro teaching, I used to do the traditional teaching. So it was the board, teacher, students learn this, read these words, read this passage. You know, it was like that. But then after my TESOL and the micro teaching, it brought a great difference to my students. It was a fun for them. Plus, like, it was, wow, the teacher is doing. So I think so as we have to do that. So it was fun and learning and everything together. It helped me a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Praveen. Anyone else?
Students, in fact, students have learned a lot. I just answered a lot. Why I really mean it. Because now teacher has become a practitioner and a facilitator. Before, we were giving too much importance for lecturing in the classroom. And after preparation, we always wanted to get satisfied ourselves, how far we talked. Okay, after that, maybe in the test, class test, or at the end of the quarter, if we get some question paper, we feel that, okay, let them write, because we are going to prepare the question paper. They will be able to write. We are teaching and we are preparing the question paper. But now, I feel that really they are learning. Whoever is preparing a question paper or a test, learning is being reflected. Why? Because I have reduced and cut short lecturing method too much. We are, enthusiastically just inducing something with the students, in fact, and encouraging them to come up with their own ideas, rather than we feel like talking in the classroom. and mainly based on the concrete, what we can measure, those kind of activities we are doing in the classroom.
All right. Thank you, Shalice. Anyone else? Question 7.
Muhammad Bakur.
Yes, sir.
Journals or the journals have improved my students' learning a lot. How? Because before I am speaking about an experience through my history in teaching, that I always compare between my last experience or my past experience in teaching and now. I find that journal improved the aim which I am after with my students. But the question, how can this be achieved? By regulating my, for example, 1 hour lesson, 1 hour lecture, that every step leads to the second one, to the third one too. How to make certain that my students' learning is not only very good but very nice, because my student at the end, in feeding back, I find that they never lose any point concerning the lesson. Okay, I find all question at the end that for 5 or 10 minutes at the end that my students are gaining many things from me. This is what happened to me through this 5 months before. I always try and do my best to apply this inside the room. So the results are very good and very excellent, very nice, because I am after one thing is to reach the information which I am after to my students. Maybe the result may be A plus or A. This is my estimation to journals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ray.
Yes.
I have something to say. Here is Musa.
Yes.
I can say journals have improved the learning. Have improved the learning of my students. Why? Because in the journals there is a place where I have to write about the evidence of learning. And before I started writing journals, I never used to care about if there is an evidence of learning or not. But right now, since I learned about reflective journals, I think about these when I'm preparing my lesson plans. And at the end of it, I have to look at the evidence if they have been covered. So in the few weeks since my first journals, I've realized that even the grades of students are improving. And this to me has shown me that indeed journals have improved the learning of my students.
All right. Does anyone want to respond to Musa's statement? Would anyone like to respond specifically to Musa's statement?
Yeah, I would like to say, Parveen.
Yeah.
Before writing the lesson plan, I used to ponder on what I should do or what I got from the students. It's not like what I hear or see. So
Yes.
when Mr. Ray, you specified that the evidence should be what you see or hear. So I made an importance that I should, keep an eye or make important that what I hear and see from the students. So that was very useful for me.
Yes.
So I got the outcome also was very good in the class.
Yeah, one more point is about the slide that we were talking about, the improvements, the teacher that has to do at the end of the class. As we said, that there's no class, there's no perfect class, and I learned a lot from that improvement section. Like, you know, when you launch the class, students, you have to focus on the points that did not help you to launch that class perfectly, you know, or the points that the students did not, why the students did not give that point, maybe because of you as a teacher, maybe because of the equipment that you use in the classroom, maybe because of the aids that you are using, the atmosphere, the students himself or herself, family issues, like we said. So that improvement section helped me also to focus on my improvement as a teacher, to reflect on the students' learning evidence.
All right. Anybody want to respond to Lena's?
Mr. Ray, me.
Yes.
Ray. Okay.
Okay, go.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Muhammad. Yes.
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I would like to say that lesson planning is very important for a new experienced teacher and for who experienced teacher for more than, for example, 5 or 10 years. Why? Because I can call or name lesson plan as the road map. How can that be achieved? By following an order that you know where you are going, what is your destination, okay? And you move towards that destination by something in your mind you follow to achieve your aims drawn before, planned before. This is, I think, for me, and I advise, okay, my colleagues, teacher, and so on, not to forget this plan or his planning to any project, especially in teaching, because a teacher is, after providing his students with some information concerning the situation itself. So this is my viewpoint, and I make a great benefit of planning. Believe me that before I sometimes enter my classroom haphazardly, without, because I bring, for example, this is a text and so on. But lesson plan, this means the teacher is already 100%, not to remember this point and that point, and he brings from here and there. Okay, following his plan, okay, he learns, okay, and his student learn. They are both connected to each other to arrive the point or the aim or the target the teacher is after, or he is aiming at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. Let's move on to another question. We're going to wrap up shortly here, guys. Let's go with question 4. I heard a lot of positive things about lesson planning, but let's look at question 4. Journals interfered with my lesson execution. Journals interfered with my lesson execution. Any responses to number 4?
Cecilia.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Cecilia, go ahead.
Cecilia, ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Like I told you before, Montessori lesson plan is apparently a bit different. So there is a day that I had to implement whatever we had learned, and I had, like the way we plan our normal lesson plan, I had to change into something different, like what I had learned. So later, it was very difficult, by the way. It's very difficult because Montessori is by use of flashcards, touch, the cards the students, like they have to touch a lot of things. So later I was called in the office and I was asked why. That is a challenge to me. So, but if I have to use it maybe with my students back at tutorial, it might work. But at my workplace, no.
Because
The journal, hold on a second. Cecilia, are you specifically talking about the journals? Question 4 was whether the journals interfere with your lesson execution. Do you think that writing the journal interfered with you doing your lesson?
Okay.
are you talking about the lesson execution or the methodologies that we learned, Cecilia?
I have something to say.
Hold on. Time out for a second. I want to go back to Cecilia. Cecilia, do you think that writing the journal interfered with you providing instruction to your students? Did we lose Cecilia? Did we lose Cecilia? Oh.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Did the writing the lesson, did that interfere with your instruction?
No, it didn't, Mr. Ray. Thank you.
Okay. That's the question at hand. Writing the journal, did it interfere with your instruction? Eden, I haven't heard from you. Microphone. Eden, your microphone. She's talking, but did you turn your microphone on, Eden?
Joel is there.
Yeah, here.
Eden, Eden, you have, hold on a second. Let me unmute her. I think she muted herself. Eden, what you may want to do is log off and come back in. Sometimes that works, Eden. Log off and then come back in. Okay. Who else? Does anyone believe the journals interfere with providing instruction?
It has.
Joel here.
Okay, Joel. Yeah, go, Joel.
Yeah, I don't think, no. It didn't interfere with my lesson execution. It reinforced the execution of my lesson, because previously there is a part of the lesson plan, part 4 in our lesson plan that we do at school. This is teacher reflection. It says, did the lesson, for example, teacher reflection and future planning. Did the lesson achieve the goals? What are the evidences? Were the timelines accurate? What should I change next time? These were already included in our lesson plan, but I wouldn't pay much attention to it because I was so concerned with the lesson continuity, not to waste any precious minute. So normally I wouldn't write the reflection after the class or after the session, but I made a conscious effort to write something. For example, what happened during the class, what went wrong during the class. For example, why was someone noisy? Why was someone not paying attention? Or what happened with this boy who was quiet before and now he's participating? So these questions helped. These questions and these small notes helped me.
Outstanding. Eden, can we hear you now? We hear something. Did you click on use your computer mic, Eden? I know Eden has something great to say. It's a shame we can't hear her. Make sure your mic is turned on, Eden. All right, so I think what Joe said was interesting, that if you didn't understand or couldn't hear Joe said in his school's lesson plan that he uses at school, they have a reflection portion in that lesson plan. And that before journaling, before he took, kind of just blow it off and wouldn't do it because he didn't really see the value. But now after doing the journaling, he sees more of the value in it. Has anyone has a shared experience like Joel? Anyone?
Mr. Ray, me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah. Reflective journals interfered in my lesson execution. How? I think any viewpoint about this questionnaire, this means the answer or the response for all as a whole, and this point, especially this point, is resulted from reading the TESOL as a whole, plus Dave's option, smooth moves, and also my viewpoint. So surely that my lesson execution is resulted from the interfere of journal. How could this be? Because any new methodology in teaching and learning for anyone, I think, especially for me, I must, not I should. I think that
So hold on, Mr. Muhammad. Let me
Yeah.
focus you. Let me just get your idea a little bit here. So you believe that writing the journal interfered with your lesson, or it did not interfere with your lesson?
Yeah, surely it it interfered in my lesson execution.
So can you give me one reason or one piece of evidence or one thing that you believe showed that it interfered with your lesson? What happened? Or could you give us a scenario that would demonstrate this?
Yeah, Mr. Ray, following, and Dave also, following the steps from 1 to 7 regularly, this means that lesson planning or lesson plan interfered in your doing. We are not speaking about we are doing something. We are not also practicing English. We are doing something. So surely we are not saying, for example, words or sentences, but we are speaking about the experience. For example, I am speaking about the experience I have gained from these things, especially about the lesson plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Eden, can we hear you now?
Yes, hello.
Yay!
Yay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Okay, you stop on what question, because I will start my device.
Question at hand is, do you believe the journaling, writing the journals, interfered with your lesson, given your lessons, providing instruction?
Okay. Under our curriculum, not really, not at all, because since I started teaching in my school, like the pattern that I've learned in teaching any subject, since I'm handling first grade, so we are self-contained. We have been using almost the same pattern, like to keep the students on their toes and to keep the learning alive inside the classroom. This almost the same flow of our strategy, like from the warmer down to the presentation of the lesson, plus the different communicative activities for young learners. It has been so effective. So I don't think really the journals would interfere in my lesson execution.
All right. I want to, because I don't want to make this too long, I'm going to ask two people the next question, and then I want to open the floor up. What I want to do is I want a couple people to ask, I want you guys to ask each other some questions. If you have any questions to each other first, then if you have any questions of Dave, you can ask questions of Dave. I don't know if Dave wants to jump in, but let me ask one more question, and I'll ask it from two people that we really didn't hear from. Let's go with, I will continue to use journals after the TESOL class. And I want to ask, we haven't heard from Mr. Tassim? Mr. Tassima?
I don't think if he's around.
Let me unmute him. Mr. Tassima? Okay. All right, no worries. Let me ask Joe. No, Joe already answered this question. No, you answered this question already. Lena,
Yes.
would you continue to journal after the TESOL class?
Not with all my classes. It depends on the student's level.
Okay. Can you give me, for example?
Yeah. When I feel that my students, they are like, let's say, below the level of learning, like I'm using, for example, if I want to teach them, that I'm tutoring, So if I have that, let's say, students who are struggling in the learning process, so I might use it, yes, to see the evidence of learning on them and to see my improvement points. So I might use it, yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. Esther, will you continue to journal after TESOL? Hold on a second, Esther. Your mic is muted, Esther. Hold on a second.
Okay. Of course, I'll continue with the journals because it has really improved my teaching. I can see it, yes.
Okay. All right. So now what I would like, does anyone else want to jump in? I want to give it, to say something about that.
Yes, I have a point in the journal regarding taking in consideration the differences between the students' level and the class.
Okay.
Like, I think there should be a part where, as a teacher, like when we launch exercises for the students, we're taking in consideration the students' level. Those who are in the beginning level, we indicate different questions for them as the advanced students, So I didn't find a place where I can put that part in the journal.
Dave, don't respond. Does anyone want to respond to Lena?
Did you guys find a place where you can, like, if you have advanced students, where you can put questions for them or something like that?
No, anyone?
We didn't get you, Lana. Again?
Okay, Barney, if you have students in your class where you know that they are in different levels, So when you did the journal, you did it based on what? On their different levels or what? On certain group of students, you know, if you have 30 students in the class, 30. Did you did that journal for the whole students? Or let's say the best 15?
Lana.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Hi.
Did you get my point?
Yeah, I did
Then
get.
I can answer you, Lena.
Yes.
The other day, Mr. Ray was saying that lesson planning, we cannot use to mention this appropriate language, right? It comes on its way. Appropriate language, what the teacher is using, it is on the spot. The same way, different levels for different subjects, we can say, even different lessons, we can say. It is only visualization of a lesson. It will happen in this way. Maybe the evidences are in this way. So for the different levels of the students, it is only an assumption that we are going to put in the sequence of learning. And that, what are the measures you want to take in the classroom, it is then and there. For example, some students may be good in some of the lessons. The others may not be good in those lessons, and vice versa. So I think appropriate language and this gradation of levels, teachers have they have to take it on the spot.
Please.
So in the evidence of learning part, we have to do it in a percentage way, like, for example, 30% of the students get my point. Do we have to do it that way?
My understanding is in that way.
Okay.
Yes, Lana.
Yes, Eden.
Yes, with reference to your question, yes, like in my class, I do it for the whole, and I have heterogeneous class, and you know the evidence of learning has helped me a lot in gauging which part or which aspect of my strategy or teaching would I have to intensify, because in the evidence of learning there are different indicators, like for example different communicative activities for various students. There are some fast learners and there are some slow learners. So I really have to keep an eye on the percentage I put on the evidence of learning. Like for example, there are some activities which are, let's say, 100% achieved by bright students, and some activities are just, you know, like 75 or 60% done by other students. So I don't have really a special set of, let's say, activities for a certain type of students, but for all. I just really have to check the evidence of learning percentage
In the classroom.
wise, so I can know where to make some improvements.
Okay.
I agree.
I would like to
Joel
hear.
here.
Okay,
I,
Joel.
okay.
Yeah, Joel here. No, when I prepared the lesson plan, it's supposed to be for everyone. However, there are some students there are students with different skills. For example, I have students who are very good readers, as in oral readers, and then there are some who read just who are slow readers. So you just have to adjust your you just have to adjust your teaching depending on the kind of lesson you have. That's my understanding of it. But for example, don't ask higher order thinking questions to those who you think would be embarrassed by a question if they cannot answer it. That's my opinion.
Islam.
Mr. Ray.
Yeah, I'd like to say one point.
Yes.
Parveen here. Hello.
All right. We'll go Praveen, Cecilia, and Mr. Mohammed. Praveen, Cecilia, and Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah.
Now, I made my journals according to the low-level students. I made in a way that everyone in the class could understand or go through my lesson, you know, according to in sequence. So I would say that make a lesson plan to the children according to their lowest level. So I think so like this, even the low-level students can at least have learned 50%, you can say, and you know the good ones they have already learned it. And if they have finished
Right.
their understanding or their activities, we could give more worksheet or something extra for the higher levels. Journals are made according to the lower level. We can make the lesson plan according to the lower. What do you say, Mr. Ray?
Oh, thank you, Praveen. Thank you. Cecilia?
Excuse me, Mr. Joel and Mr. Ray, I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
Okay, Joel, when you talked
Hi.
about reading, okay, you basically, like right now, you just concentrated on those kids that read so well and those kids that don't read so well. Then I have a question for all of you. You have this one best student that reads so very well and he's the best in class, but he doesn't read to understand. He reads, I can include like he reads for fun.
Right.
How can you say about that? Even how can you even make your lesson plan or your reflective journal on such a student when you know that he reads for fun?
That question is pointed to Joe first.
Is that for me, Mrs.
Yeah,
Celia?
because it's you who talked about those kids that my best reader student and those who
Right.
are weak. But now I'm talking
Some of
about
them are
that
poor readers, yes.
student that is best in reading. Yet in your own understanding, you know that this particular student is reading for fun and not for understanding.
He mentioned oral reader.
I said, all right. Okay, can I answer now?
Sure.
Mrs. Celia? Okay. My understanding is if a student reads for fun, that just widens the vocabulary and understanding of the student, right? If he enjoys what he's reading, he'll keep on reading and reading. Now, I have this, for example, next week I have a lesson. And then there is supposed to be a listening activity. What I wanted to do was for this good reader to record this particular part of the lesson, and then I'd play it during the class. I think it will work out well.
I would say that even a fun reader would learn in the end. What do you say?
If he reads for fun, then that means he's enjoying what he's doing, right?
But is he understanding Mr. Joel?
I think we need to bounce the question back to Cecilia to get more clarity on what her issue is.
Maybe she means reading without understanding. Is that what you mean?
So what do you want the student to do, Cecilia?
I basically don't want my student, like on my assessment, I don't want to write reading for fun, but I want to see the outcome of his reading. It's not just about reading, 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 and reading.
Got you. Dave,
all right,
you want to jump in on this one, Dave? Or are you just watching?
I'm not sure. I think what I hear is that different students would show different percentage of success on the outcomes that you plan. And that's just par for the course. We all know that's going to happen. They're all different. The only possible answer to that, as far as teaching goes, and this isn't the journals, is to get the students to interact as much as possible. And that's where scaffolding and socialization come in, is that they, in effect, will learn from each other. I guess I'm a little bit confused by the reading for fun, whether this is perceived as a negative thing or a positive thing. For me, the idea that they're reading for fun, and I think Joel would agree, means that this is a good thing, that they're not only reading, but they enjoy reading. In other words, they're reading for fun. I'm not sure that others are perceiving it the same way.
Dave.
So my question to you, Cecilia, here's my question to you. how do you know that student is not understanding? How do you know he's not understanding?
Of what he read.
I'm sorry?
He can't tell what he read, but he's the best reader. He reads so well.
But how
He
do you
loves
know? How do you know he cannot tell what he's read?
He can't even tell the characters in the story. He even
He can't
basically
answer the questions. He can't answer. She can't answer the.
nothing.
They can't comprehend what they are reading. They can read the lexicals by, by letters, but they can't understand what they are reading.
But here's
There's
my
no
question, guys. Here's my question. How do you know? What is the evidence?
reflecting, by asking questions.
And they won't be able to answer comprehension questions, right? So maybe. Okay.
Okay, so are you just asking questions? And are you sure you're asking the right questions?
Okay, for example, we are reading a paragraph or a comprehension story. Then you pick the question from the comprehension and ask the same student. Maybe he won't be able to answer. Then I will definitely know that he was reading for fun or just reading for the sake of reading.
Yes, hello.
I gotta admit, I'm a little confused because we're making it sound like reading for fun is a bad thing. That's
really.
It's not a bad thing, but it's not a way of teaching. It's not a bad thing, but you cannot use it for teaching. No, it's not.
Here's my response, because I know you guys have a lot to do. It's
Yes.
Valentine's, this weekend.
Actually, they're waiting me in the car.
I love this conversation. I love this conversation, but we do need to wrap it up. We can continue it tomorrow, but I don't want to leave Cecilia out there because I think she has a valid question. Let's think about that. My initial response is maybe that student may have some challenges, and maybe we need to find creative ways to that student to demonstrate that he is comprehending. That's just my 2 cents. At this point, I want to give the floor to Dave and let Dave close this however he would like to close it.
Gee, thanks, Ray. I think you've got a fascinating question here, and let me try to do this really briefly. Reading for fun versus reading and the ability to do something with what you read. I can make this comparison from my own experience with Portuguese. My second language is Brazilian Portuguese, and I listen to songs, and in effect, I read Portuguese. And some of it, it's fun, and I feel I understand, but I don't believe I'd be able to answer comprehension questions. So what does that mean? Well, what it means to me is you're talking about different stages in reading. We kind of pretend that reading is an on-off light. Like you read, you understand, you read, you don't understand. It isn't quite so black and white, red and green. It isn't quite like that. There's a level at there's another stage at which we read things and
I think Dave's internet, his signal is going weak. Oh no.
there is Portuguese that I can read and I can sing the songs, but I wouldn't be able to answer a comprehension question on it. And then, of course, there are other things which I read in English, which I read it, I understand it, and I can. So I guess to sum this up, we're talking about different levels in reading. Reading is not one thing. Reading ranges.
His internet. Let's give it a couple of seconds.
So is reading for fun bad? No, it's not bad. It's just a different level of reading. What you're calling, Cecilia is calling reading for fun. And it's just, that's a different level of reading. It's not the same thing. I guess I would like to sum it all up by, would you recommend reflective journals to other teachers?
Yes, sure. Lana. Actually, I did already.
We will really recommend.
Same viewpoint.
Here's a better question. Who would not recommend journals? Okay.
Me,
All right.
me not.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it, Dave?
I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know if you have a
Thank you,
video
Mr.
of this,
Dave.
but I wish there was a video because I would like to show the TOEIC people.
Yeah, I did record this.
I'm sort of at the edge of working with a TOEIC program called Propel, and it's a major new effort by TOEIC, and Propel stands for Performance Related Outcomes for Preparing English Language Learners. This is what you've been doing. So we are actually kind of ahead of the game here a little bit, and Ray, we got something here. And I think we're actually out ahead of TOEIC. And I'm very impressed with your conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Very welcome, Mr. Ray.
So
You're welcome.
yeah. Listen,
Hope to
guys,
meet you.
you got to do
Yeah.
this at your schools. What we're doing today, this is what's going to improve teaching and learning.
Yeah.
Please do these things. It's free. Zoom is free. A conversation is free. And with that being said, thank you all. This has been an excellent discussion. I really appreciate everyone's participation. I'm sorry, Mr. Tassima, we couldn't hear you. He wrote a message saying he could hear us, but we can't hear him. We'll get his input another day. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
We hope to meet you, Mr. Dave, face to face.
Me too.
Inshallah.
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 We always hope to have intellectual people around. Thank you, Mr. Dave. Thank you, Mr. Ray.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.